Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:01 p.m. and the date is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board currently consists of 5 members and 1 alternate, the alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Members present tonight are Alicia Sweeney, Aaron Thomas, Shay Myers, alternate Paul Hillard. And Paul, why don't you slide one more seat closer? I was miscounting. And I'm Rob Delich, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Also present and representing the city today is Assisting Zoning Administrator Mr. Lance Allison. And would you like to introduce yourself? Because I don't know what title to give you. City Zoning Administrator?
It's always been referred to as Code Director, but I think it's probably a little more advanced than that now. I think it's Director of Development, Enforcement, and Facilities.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. There are 2 cases on tonight's agenda for properties located at 932 East State Street and 282 East State Street. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak tonight concerning any items on the agenda please stand? So any appellants, please. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You can be seated. So I now invite you to view a pre-recorded video of the rules of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according under the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.3b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact, based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property. A literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature, the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property, for which variance is sought one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens aggrieved by a decision of the Board may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the Board to the applicant.
So our first case on the agenda tonight is case number 26-01V at 932 East State Street. The appellant is requesting a sign size variance from ACC 23.03.13 I-4D to allow 114 foot 2 square inches, 114 foot 2 inches square feet, where 100 square feet is maximum permitted. Mr. Allison, will you please provide us with your brief of the case?
Yeah, so in this instance, the zone with the 4 lanes, they are allowed a 100 square foot sign out there total for all the businesses that are on that property. So each business out there can't have a 100 square foot sign. All the businesses combined are only allowed 100 square feet. In this case, they're going to be over by 14 square feet for that area.
So you said for the 4-lane road, so it's smaller at other places in the city? What's the difference between?
They're only allowed 50 square feet.
50 square feet, okay.
So is this adding, so I know how the sign is set up because Aldi's has a larger proportion of that sign, so this would be just adding to that sign, or they have to change that whole square footage of the original sign that's there?
That's what.
So it's going to be, I see that on the ground there. So
That's what I. Yeah.
So they're just going to be completely down. Okay, all right.
Do you know what the square footage of just the top part that is existing is? Is that 100 already?
No.
Okay, it's under the 100?
It's under 100.
Okay.
The existing up top was just under 100. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
So
then adding this one on,
96.
Yeah.
put it over.
Takes you to that one.
So I wasn't sure if it was going to happen here or going to go up there.
It looks
So it was
like
almost
they just want to
100.
put it
Yeah.
on that masonry
Yeah.
base.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Allison?
So we're looking at the pictures, it's only just for the bottom brick part of the sign.
That will be the only new sign added, yes.
That'd be, okay.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
rest of the signage will stay. The only
Right.
new signage is at the bottom.
All right, that's what I had a
And-
question for.
And
is-
they have to put it there because you're only allowed one freestanding sign there.
Yeah. I remember we was going
Okay.
through this with Menards and all the signage for them, so.
So that's the other requirement then. This additional would be a separate variance if it were freestanding. It's going to be affixed to a structure already that's there.
It's already going to be attached to a freestanding sign.
Based on the sign, you've got one sign on each side.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Allison? We can ask him more if we need to come up with something, but is it for now? Okay. So at this time, I'd like to invite the appellant or their representative to please approach the podium and provide any pertinent testimony or give reason why the request should be viewed favorably. And be liberal with that, please. Talk us into it, basically.
Sure, sure. So do I need to give you guys my name and address and all that good stuff before I start?
That'd be good. Thank you very much.
Sure. Ryan Brady. The address is 1721 Hancock Street, Sandusky, Ohio, 44870.
Okay, and go right ahead.
Sure. So as you guys discussed before, it's an existing pylon sign. This is a new location for our client here. We've added some wall signage to the existing tenant space, but they would like a presence here on this pylon sign for traffic on East State Street. We have a couple limitations here. Obviously, the square foot is what we're discussing tonight. The landlord preferred that we not further break up that existing multi-tenant cabinet that's 96 square feet. I believe there's some tenant obligations there that require Aldi to have half the sign, and the thought was that by breaking up those two tenants to three, it might get so small where it's not effective for all three tenants. In terms of the placement of the sign itself, due to wind load and engineering calculations, we were not comfortable with adding that up underneath where the cabinet is currently. So putting it on the brick doesn't increase any load on the structure itself. So that's why you're seeing it at the base versus up higher on the structure. In terms of the rationale for this ask, the strip center itself sits pretty far back from East State Street. There's some out parcel properties as well. So the fear here is that without a freestanding sign presence, that it may make this location much harder to find for folks who are looking to frequent this business. So other than that, I mean, that's kind of the rationale for the ask in general. The existing sign is very close to the max limitation for square footage, so we thought that what we proposed was kind of the bare minimum to be an effective use of the freestanding sign for them, but not be an overreach in terms of asking for this with this freestanding sign.
Answer most of my questions. Because most people usually just start replacing the frontage of the sign, but if they do try to break that down, you ain't gonna be able to see the name on that sign. So that's what most places usually do. They just change the box and put a different sticker on it.
Was there a previous business at this location with a sign?
I don't believe so. I can't answer that 100%, but I do not believe so. But
it's been like the Army. It's been like the Army ROTC there.
Okay.
They're in the middle section.
Yeah. I don't know
With
what was
the,
on the end.
Along with physical therapy, the physical therapy business.
The end been vacant for a while though.
I think there was something there a few years ago, I think, but it was not well signed. It was
they have
something, maybe
signed.
offices or something. It
Yeah.
wasn't signed really very well at all.
BioLife Plasma.
Yes,
station there.
BioLife. BioLife was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what, 10 years ago maybe?
Yeah, it's been that long.
Yeah, but it's tough back there. Like the Wendy's kind of like blocks it when you're driving on East State.
And so do the other outbuildings too. Any other questions for the appellant?
So the sign is going on the bricks. Is it going to be lit or just hard plastic or just?
it's non-illuminated. It's a flat panel sign basically. So no illumination. Most of their business happens during the daytime, and so they. And with where it's located, having to light it up would have created its own set of challenges and cost. So that was why we went with a simple, non-illuminated version.
Okay. Any other questions for the appellant? We can bring him back up if we need to. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So seeing there's no one else here unless the other appellant would like to speak in favor of this request? If you want to do that, you'd have to get up in front of the podium and say that, but I was sort of joking, but you can if you want. Okay. So seeing none, wanting to speak in favor, anyone wishing to speak in general comment, there is no one. In opposition, there is no one. So I'm closing the testimony from the floor, and the board will now deliberate. Okay, so initial discussion. So Paul, you'll sort of figure out how this goes. So we have initial discussion here. We've closed the floor, so the appellant is done. We can bring them back up if we want to. We can ask questions of Mr. Allison if we want to. But it's our discussion right now, and then we'll get ready to go through the questions we need to answer about variance.
Okay.
So any initial discussion? Or do you want to jump into the questions?
Jump to the questions.
Sure.
Okay. So are there exceptional circumstances, and I'll read these again just to help you, Paul, I think, too. Sometimes I read them the first time anyway, if there's multiple cases. Are there exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone? Thoughts on that? So we're looking to sort of find answers to these questions to help us justify yay or nay on this.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything unique about this property. I mean, I do think there's a logic to what they're proposing here, though.
I think if anything exceptional, it might be the fact that the property is screened a bit by the outbuildings or front buildings.
You can't see what's back there.
It's a narrow
Setbacks so far.
parking lot,
Yeah.
and I think that maybe that's the exceptional piece here.
Yeah, and I mean, the tenant is inheriting a situation that
Can't change.
they can't really change based on the existing signage is already basically at the maximum amount. Like if it was a different signage where they had, 4 areas rather than the 3, then they would be able to put their,
They already looked at the safety issue of trying to add something to that goalpost too, so they said couldn't do it. So.
Yeah.
And multiple other businesses would be affected if we wanted to change the square footage of their signs and they face financial hardship.
They said all these supposed to have 50% of the sign already in their lease, so.
And I think here, technically, property owner is the whole property, actually. It's not just the cannabis business. So it's a big parcel. And so these are all in sort of the mix, like you just suggested, Paul. So there's trade-offs here, and this is being requested to try and help alleviate those trade-offs and fix that situation. So is there practical difficulty and undue hardship? So because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. What's on that?
Need some signage.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
I think for all the same reasons that we just
yeah.
said
It's kinda-
prior.
You can't see it from the street.
Yeah.
Can't add nothing else to the existing structure.
And because it's set so far back as well, it's navigating to it. I could see that being a problem. Preservation of equal property rights. We haven't really discussed this, so we need to talk about it a bit, but literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellants of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone, in the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and same vicinity. So I haven't really tried to look and see what the other signs look like as far as if there's any other exceptions that we're aware of. I don't know. Mr. Allison, do you know of any variances have been granted for signage along the section of East State Street?
I don't know. I would venture to say yes, but I would say they're fairly old.
Yeah. It wasn't until maybe like 10 years ago they was able to even change the market on East State Street sign.
Right.
Because it was just University Mall and you couldn't have anything. Even when I opened my store up there years ago, we couldn't even have a sign on the building. Now they even got signs on the building, but I had to get a permit to even put a temporary sign up out in front of the mall. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the other strip mall down the street at 914 approximately, which has the old Big Lots, Save a Lot, etc. And mostly they seem to be relying on the fact that they're visible from the street and they have big signs on their building.
Yeah.
The signs at the road are pretty small.
it just saved a lot. The only one I ever had a sign there.
I guess like the Wendy's and the McDonald's have pretty large signs. I don't know what the square footage, and then they also have the 2 signs that say enter and exit for their drive-throughs. I don't know if that all adds up to 100 square feet, but to me, I think that is somewhat
McDonald's had to
equal
come
to this, in that like they're also trying to advertise their drive-through.
They came here years ago because they had to get a variance because when they replaced their sign, they had to get the part where you put the specials at. They wasn't allowed to have that, so they had to get a variance for the McDonald's sign. And I think they already took it down already.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I see any good examples, except probably McDonald's, that with the arches, it's got to be.
Well, it was the
over.
sign. It was a sign that was underneath the arches. They had to add a for their specials. It used to be a sign like right in the
looks
middle.
like
It was
it's
down in the
not
middle of
there
the
now.
pole.
Oh,
You know
looks
how
like
Wendy's
it's
have their specials underneath?
no
like
longer
that.
there.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Long John Silver's
Yes.
has that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they put the new sign up, they had to get a variance for that menu. The special sign, I think, is gone. So I do remember it being on the board when they came in for that. Other than that, just nothing else. OUC just replaced a sign.
All right, so I don't know if I see any good examples of where variance have been granted, but there's been some, it sounds like, from the discussion. So I don't think this is granting anything that hasn't already been considered or granted to others.
A lot of it's been updated over the past 10, 15 years.
Next question is minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum required to make possible the reasonable use of the property.
I think they could definitely be asking for a larger sign, like they could be doing a sign that takes up all of the bottom podium, like where the brick is, and covering that up entirely. But I don't know the design of signs very well, that like how small you could go with it not being really practical and useful. But certainly they could have gone bigger and they aren't. So that to me leans toward, yes, this is a minimum variance.
Yeah, we used to have, is it 10 feet off the side of the building? If you have a sign on the side of the building, it's 10%, yeah.
Yeah, so my feeling is this is a very reasonable request as far as the amount they're asking for.
Yeah.
We could ask for it to be lighted, discuss that, or bigger, or affixed to the, they could have rebuilt the structure and affixed a larger sign. That would have been a larger variance request, and I think this is pretty much a minimum variance. In fact, I'm
I'd agree. It looks like
appreciative
they're
of the
asking for
fact that
minimum
it seems to be that way.
variance. Reasonable.
We get plenty of requests to come through here that aren't very minimal. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. I don't see how this would impact other properties, not negatively at least. Anyone else comment?
No, I don't see any.
Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property of which variance is sought, one or the other in combination is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. So, comments about that?
I mean, we have not necessarily like this, but we have had a couple of sign variances come through recently, and I think that I know that there's some updating of the zoning code going on, some rewriting, and I do wonder if our zoning code, or if what our code says allows around signage is becoming a little bit of out of touch, out of alignment with maybe the needs of some of these local businesses, or what else is driving that kind of the multiple requests that we've been getting for sign variances. But I think that also I do think these are pretty reasonable cases to come through that are not. I don't think that they're necessarily problematic to come through the BZA. We have had a number of these recently.
Yeah, it does seem a little overly restrictive to me that all the tenants are limited to that combined square footage, which seems somewhat limiting. But again, we also don't necessarily want this to look like Breezewood, Pennsylvania, which is notorious for having huge signs all along the road and just looking atrocious. So at least this does keep the properties looking and the street looking nicer.
Mm-hmm. These days, it's easier to find a property with a supercomputer in your pocket.
Yeah. One thing, you never seen an arrow sign in town because you can't have an arrow sign. When I first got on the board, somebody's looking for the big light up arrow signs. Mm-hmm. Never seen one in town before. You never will.
All right. So would someone from the board like to propose a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 26-01V to grant a variance from ACC 23.03.13I4D to allow 114-foot, 2-inch square foot, where 100 square foot is maximum permitted for the property located at 932 East State Street.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion before we take a vote? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, you have your variance 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take a breather for a moment here. Hold on. Check my oxygen levels.
Rob is committed to the BCA.
All right, looking good. Okay, so the next case, our second and last case for the night, is case number 26-02C at 282 East State Street. The appellant is requesting a conditional use in accordance with ACC 23.04.04 B1 to allow a short-term rental in a B1 zone. So, Mr. Allison, would you please provide us with your brief of the case?
All right, so this property is located in a B1 zone, and the B1 regs for short-term rentals refers you back to accessory uses that are permitted in an R3 zone. So short-term rentals are permitted in the R3 zone, but they're only conditionally permitted in the B1 zone, which is kind of confusing. So if this was an R3, she wouldn't have to be here, but the B1 rules say it's a conditional use if it's permitted in an R3 zone.
Do it got to be
which
owner
is.
occupied?
No.
Okay, all right.
So it's not about owner occupation. In
No.
this case, it's just the zone. It's a conditional use.
It's a conditional use.
That's different than I was thinking this was, so it's good you clarified that. So
So in an R3, short-term rentals are allowed.
They're principally permitted, so they are allowed.
Now it's a change 3 years ago, right? When they changed
Yeah,
all
when
the.
we did all the short-term rental changes,
Yeah.
that's when that change occurred. And so the B1 says if it's principally permitted in an R3, then it's conditionally permitted in the B1, which is why we're here tonight for the
So there's-
conditional use.
another detail, there's also the corridor of East State Street in this area has a conditional use for short-term rentals if it's,
Yeah, but it's a little different because
Yeah,
that refers to
explain.
the R1.
that's what I thought. So it refers to R1, or is it abutting an R1 or is it just R1?
Well, there's both.
Okay.
But I think it's the R1 if it abuts a B3. I'm not sure, but I think it has to abut an R3 or a B3. I think, not a B1. I'd have to reread it, but but you're right. There is corridors as well. East State Street, Columbus Road, and Carpenter. I think
Carpenter,
maybe.
Lancaster,
Yeah, were conditional uses in the R zones.
maybe
there.
Richland?
No, I don't think.
Nah, 'cause
I
Richland-
thought Schaefer had something over there too at one point. So just looking at something on that corner where Stu Mack
I would have
was.
to double check which roads for sure it is. So yeah, if you were in the R1 zone anywhere on that stretch of East State, it would be a conditional use as well.
Yeah, remember the house that was not owner occupied?
Yeah, that was like behind Kindred's.
Behind
parking lot.
Kindred, yep.
Yeah, I remember.
And we denied that variance, different circumstances.
Well, that was a variance, not a conditional use.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is conditional use.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have to add stipulations to the conditional use or just?
That's up to you.
We could.
You can.
So that's something, Paul, you may not have heard about these kind of things, but if we see concerns, but we want to at least give an opportunity for a motion to be made that would allow a conditional use in this case, then we could put stipulations such as security, additional security, or we've suggested things like contacts So if it wasn't a local person managing the property, to require there is somebody local that can be contacted by the city if needed. Some of those kind of things we've suggested in the past for some of these kind of cases. That's just a possibility here. I don't know if that's something we'll consider tonight, but just so you're aware that those kind of things are possible.
So was this property just a long-term rental originally?
Yes.
Okay, and it's just, so that's the change up, because it was originally long-term, no problem, short-term.
Yep.
And I guess when we hear from the appellant, we can ask some
Yeah,
questions
okay.
about that. I'm curious
That's
about
what, yeah, I was,
numbers of units and stuff too.
yeah.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Allison? Are you clear enough on the conditional use kind of thing? I don't know, it's probably clear as mud right now.
Just one thing to clarify for him is a conditional use doesn't follow the same steps as a variance.
Yeah, we don't have to go through the
You don't have
five
to go through the
questions.
five.
Okay, if we see something at risk for safety or whatever, we can put an amendment.
Yeah,
to the
and
conditional use.
I think I will read these questions just so we consider these things because they're important, but we can decide what's important here as far as it's an opinion of the board.
Okay.
Is the way that former Director Riggs would say it. So it's our opinion. It's not the same as a variance, so it's not quite as technical in that respect, but it is still important for us to make a good decision and outline why we're making the decision.
Okay. So let's say we had members of the public that had some concerns and we wanted to put some of those in place to make sure those were,
Yes, that's the
seeing
kind
that
of
we
thing.
have no other members that are in opposition.
Well, the thing, we'll have people make watches later on too.
Okay.
So it may be similar properties in town that somebody may be interested in doing something similar to, they might
So you
want
put
to.
those in place to then protect.
Well,
future.
just for reference, right? Because every property is different, right? Different location, different situation.
Makes sense?
You can also deny the conditional use permit. We don't have to approve it with conditions. You can just say like, we don't think that this is a good fit for this area and just
And,
deny it.
but we still make a motion as to if
Yes.
approve, and then we vote up or down on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to invite the appellant or the representative to please approach the podium and provide any pertinent testimony, give reason why the request should be viewed favorably, and yes, please introduce yourself and your address, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Riley Kennard, and my local address is 11888 Peach Ridge Road. I am the general manager, founder of Kindred Market, which is at 284 East State Street, right next door to 282 East State Street. I'll just keep going. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about my interest in making 282 into a short-term rental. In my travels, in just being in the industry of natural foods, having a small independent grocer, I've come across a couple businesses like mine who have created these kind of themed Airbnbs that highlight natural living, highlight local products, and done a really good job. Just made a lovely decorated, aesthetically pleasing short-term rental that has local coffee and breakfast options. Anyway, I think that I could do this very well in the house right next door to Kindred. Larry Young, who owns the building, also owns the house next door, and he has had it as a long-term rental for years. His most recent tenants, he really struggled with them in particular, and so then I think he just has a hard time finding reliable tenants for the property. I asked him if this was something he was comfortable with. He liked the idea, gave me permission. I think I could make it a really nice thing. As a student rental or as a long-term rental, there's a lot of debris in the yard. Their landscaping's not kept up. I think I could make it a really a vibrant, enriching space for that neighborhood, as opposed to the way that it's been for a long time. And that would benefit my business, the bread company, the Village Bakery. The people that come and stay in the short-term rental would potentially be spending money at those locations, be enjoying what our neighborhood has to offer. I envision, people coming to Athens Porch Fest and staying at the Airbnb, or Brew Week, or OU things too. As far as I think there are a lot of concerns that people have about short-term rentals, and I just want to ensure all of you that I would have strict rules about the number of occupants, no parties or large events. There would be quiet times, like a noise rules. And then, I'm also right there working in the building next door, close by, to maintain and keep an eye on everything.
So the current property owner will keep it, you're just gonna be managing the property per se? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So that's why I was kind of confused if he was taking over buying the property or just gonna be managing it as the short term. Okay.
Eventually, we have a verbal contract to buy the property, so I do eventually plan on owning that house, and I'd much rather have it as a short-term rental than be a landlord for somebody else.
There was something in the narrative about having your office potentially there. Mm-hmm. What is that interaction between the office and the short-term rental?
Like how would I
within the
make that
house?
work?
Yeah.
Well, our business, we currently have offices above the sales floor, and we're running out of space. They're all residences too that we are using as partly offices and partly anyway. We're running out of space. I need one more office. There is a small bedroom in that house that I would convert into an office, and then we would use it loosely throughout the week for that reason, and then lock it up and rent out the rest of the house as an Airbnb for long weekends. I mean, if or me or one of my employees needed to use that office probably Monday through Thursday, somebody could rent it Friday through Sunday. It would be like and we wouldn't have it rented all the time either. I'd probably not try to rent it all the time. And, yeah.
Thank you.
How many bedrooms are currently in the rental?
There are 3 bedrooms.
There's 3?
Mm-hmm.
So then it'd go down to 2 for the Airbnb, and then 1 being an office?
Yes, yeah, there'd be one small bedroom, like a master bedroom, a bathroom upstairs. And then if we wanted to put a sleeper sofa, maybe we could have a 4th occupant.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I say in the application that it's 4 for 4 people, but that's how we would do that.
So it's almost like an owner-occupied situation if the office were to be installed, yeah. Continue if you have more you want to tell us.
That's pretty much everything I had to say about it. I appreciate you hearing me out.
Are all the 3 bedrooms upstairs? Mm-hmm. And then what would happen with the downstairs?
The downstairs would be, there's a living room, a dining area, and a kitchen, so.
Would it be shared use with the Airbnb?
It would all be the Airbnb. So the
Oh, it'd all
only,
be the- okay.
yeah, the whole house would be the Airbnb, except for this small room that would be an office that I would lock up whenever I rented
Okay,
it.
so somebody would rent out the whole house minus the
Yeah,
office.
yeah, exactly.
And they'd have access to the kitchen and the whole thing?
The whole thing, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I do have one more question.
Sorry, Rob.
So there's another unit behind this, right? I
Yeah,
think
there is.
The garage, converted garage unit.
There's a
That-
garage, and then above that there is an apartment. Yeah,
Is that going to stay the way it is then?
it is.
Okay, so it'll continue to be a long-term rental? Okay. Interesting. And then, so thinking about noise, that structure is in the way of the R1 neighborhood behind. So there's a buffer even there. Even if there were some noise issues, that this is sort of buffered from behind at least. There's
That's right.
nobody right behind that would be affected by it. There's a house that's a ways up the hill, and there's a garage in the way, 2-story garage.
Is that space, do that have a separate address? I remember that garage.
It's probably a half or something.
282 and a half.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay. That's what I was wondering. So when if we move forward, we got to make sure we,
Yeah, the address,
yes, address.
232.
Yeah.
Is, so did you say this is currently a long-term rental for student housing? Is that how it's been historically? Okay.
It has.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and take a seat?
Okay.
And we'll call you back up if we need you. So there's no one here willing to speak in favor of the request or in general comment, and no one present to speak in opposition. We didn't receive any emails or anything, right? So nothing in our packet to that effect. So I will close the floor from testimony, and the board will now deliberate. So what I said earlier about going through the variance questions, maybe we don't need to do that here. I think I've got a framework we can use that may help with that too. But so let's just start. What issues or questions or you guys have that you want to discuss?
Sorry, your rental. Sorry, your rental is already occupied.
It's already a rental, and I really like the idea as far as a short-term rental to get people frequenting the local businesses. Because most likely everybody that's coming in a short-term rental is going to go to Kindred, they're going to go to Village Bakery, they're going to go to the bread company. The only thing that comes up for me is thoughts about taking away one bed. So you go from 3 beds to 2. And then when we're short on rental properties. But other than that, it seems like a good idea.
So I'll say the one I think typical concern with short-term rental is that it's taking beds off the market though. So a bed somebody could be sleeping in that lives here as a resident of the city, whether or not they're, if they're a renter or if it's, an owner-occupied property. That's, I think, one of the major concerns that we've brought up with these kind of cases in the past. Again, this is a unique situation. And just to be clear, Paul, we do take these kind of things into consideration as unique. There's never the same circumstances with any of these questions. So it's never, we can't say we set a precedent before. No, we haven't. Each case is different. And so each case is an independent decision.
This is definitely a special case, and I like the fact that it's going to be somebody that has a business right next door that's going to be beautifying the property instead of a long-term rental, because we've often had issues with quality of long-term rentals.
And that is a good point, I think.
By the fact that the manager is going to be right there. So some of the other short-term, the people that own them, they didn't live in town. They just didn't manage them. They just had them rented out.
Yeah,
You got somebody that's keeping an eye on it. I think that was something that came up in the past with people looking at, doing these short-term rentals and they're not even located in Athens, even keep an eye on it. At least you have someone keeping an eye on it, maintenance in the property, keeping it clean. And if anything should happen, that person's right there. So
yeah, it's not some outside developer. It's a local family that has roots here. That's them, the owners and their employees are going to see if there's something out.
right.
I'm guessing it'll get fixed.
Yeah.
That's been one of the big issues that people are wanting to do this and not even in town. Like, all right, who do you contact if you got a problem?
Yeah. And I think as far as aligning with the zoning code, I don't think a single family home, this whole section of that street is really aligning with the B1 zone of, it has really become a commercial area of local businesses. And so I do think this is it's still residential in nature, but short-term rentals are a little bit more commercial than a single-family home residential, which creates a little bit of that buffer between the street and the residential behind it.
I think that's a good point.
If there is kind of an ideal place, because like Rob, like you brought up, with any short-term rental or conversion of a long-term rental to a short-term rental, that does kind of conflict with the kind of housing goals and the comprehensive plan and just the need for housing in general. But this location, it is pretty firmly a business strip, right on State Street, adjacent to, I think as far as kind of an ideal location for a business like this, I think it is about as ideal as you can get. Like I know Little Fish has they also have their Airbnb right next door, which they maintain, and that's become kind of like, I don't know, I think a little bit of an extension of their business, and seems to be successful.
Yeah, they've been marketing that real heavy.
Yeah.
Visitors.
So here's some things we can consider, I think, and it makes sense to discuss these. Compatibility with the neighborhood. So do we see any concerns with compatibility? I think we were just addressing that a little bit, but I just want to call out some things that we can be concrete in what we're saying here. So I think it does seem pretty compatible. The business zone, I think, is really the key, I think, to that. And it does make sense, to my opinion. Any other comments about that? You all folks?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I mean, I think most of the short-term rental applications we see are kind of in the heart of our residential neighborhoods, and I do think that often is a very incompatible use when you're carving out of a residential neighborhood. I think this is not that. This is a business strip adjacent to a business.
How about traffic and parking concerns? So there's adequate parking. We didn't
They said
discuss
there'd be adequate parking.
Yeah, it already got parking already
It's
for the
spread
long term.
off the street in front, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as she said, I think that she doesn't expect to have increased traffic more than the rental property already had, which probably less in some respects because it's mostly weekend and
Busy weekends.
Yeah.
Public safety and health. So any concerns there that we should be considering?
I mean, as far as access to any kind of amenities and services, it's like right on State Street, right? It's about as central as you can get. Again, not embedded in a residential neighborhood where a lot of those concerns often come up.
And she talked about policies they'll have in place to try and improve things like quiet hours and impacts like that. And there is an operation plan in here which includes some of those other things, which I think also helps alleviate concerns about the situation here. No events and parties are allowed, and since they're close by, if not owner occupied, they'll be able to monitor that. Local contact available 24/7. That's usually been one of our concerns. So. We've done conditions on motions before to make sure that's addressed, and we don't have to address that here.
Yeah.
With a short-term rental versus a long-term rental, would a short-term rental bring in a transient guest tax compared to?
Yes.
So we'd be bringing in money for the city, whereas a long-term rental we wouldn't.
Correct.
Okay. That seems
It's not like a major concern of ours
Not
as
a major,
this
but-
board, but it's pointed out. It's good to consider these things. Although this is an opinion, it's different than a variance. So okay. So any other discussion before we look for a motion here? Someone would like to make a motion? Do you need the information in front of you?
I can make a motion. I have
Is it on the screen or?
I just have to scroll for a second. Okay. I will make a motion to approve a request for conditional use for ACC 23.04.04B1 to allow a short-term rental in a B1 zone for the address 282 East State Street.
And mention case number 2.
Case number 26-02C.
Do I hear a second for the motion?
Second. Paul.
Paul.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, any other discussion before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And you have your variance, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Conditional use permit.
Did I say variance? You have your conditional use permit. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so disposition of the minutes from the BZA hearing on February 10th, 2026. Members present were Aaron, Alicia, Shay, myself, and Ben Lockman. Ben is not here, but there are 4 of us who can vote on this. Anybody have any issues with or adjustments or anything with the minutes from February 10th?
Nope.
So I'd like to make a motion to pass or approve those minutes.
Second.
Well, I can't make the motion. Somebody has
I
made.
make a motion to approve the minutes from February 2026.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, passed 4-0, and that concludes our business for this evening. Thank you very much.